At some point, you gotta ask yourself, is this video just an excuse for Dave to show you his vacation videos? Maybe? Hey folks, Dave here. Like many of you, I've been in lockdown for COVID for like about 2 years now, and I am extremely lucky because I have this space, this studio of mine that has been specifically curated for my creation process, and that's been wonderful. A lot of my work comes out of this space, like from this light box here, probably 50% of my portfolio was made there. Like this, not this, but this, and that. However, none of my ideas come from here, and creation starts with ideas. They all come from out there in the ether, from movies, from books, which luckily I can watch during lockdown, but they also come from being other places and being out in the world and experiencing new things, new ideas, new stuff, new scenery, new people, new anything. That's been lacking in my life, as it has for many of us over these years. And the purpose of this video is simply to go over my recent trip that I was able to take to Florida. Now, I am Canadian by birth, and most of my family lives in Canada, so we tend to go up north for Christmas break. My parents-in-law actually have a winter home down in Florida, so instead of trying to cross the border during a pandemic, we decided to go visit them for Christmas, and we decided to make a road trip out of it. When we started planning this, Omicron was not a factor, so we kind of went with it, and luckily we fit it in because I don't think I'd take this trip now, but a few weeks ago when we actually did, it worked out quite well. So the idea of this video is not to show you every single thing that happened, because you just don't care to see me sitting by a pool, I'm imagining. However, the point of this video is to show you what adventures I had that actually inspired me and what those inspirations are. So just give you a little insight into the brain of Dave when he's not actually in a studio or actually holding toys and creating stuff. So let's jump in. So the first thing we did was we left as soon as we possibly could. And by that, I mean, as soon as the kids got off the bus, we put them in the car and we headed south. Actually, first we headed to watch Spider-Man No Way Home. Then we headed south because we're a geek family, geeks rule. Spider-Man's awesome. We spent the night on the road. The next day, we arrived at a hotel by the ocean on Cocoa Beach, Florida, and we spent some time in the waves. I tried vainly to catch a wave curl with my GoPro, but we ended up having a lot of fun playing in the waves, and then I caught this amazing sunset. The next day, we went to the Kennedy Space Center. They have a lot of stuff on display, a lot of the rockets, a lot of the history of spaceflight, and I'm a big spaceflight fanatic. I think humans are meant to be explorers, and exploring the stars is something that we're destined to do, and I'm super glad that we're doing it. And I wanted to explore some of the history of that and introduce my kids to some of the history of that. So we checked out the amazing stuff that is the Kennedy Space Center. Then that afternoon, we went back to the beach and played more on the waves. And then that night, we got to experience spaceflight firsthand. I took my son, we went to a spot on the beach, and we actually saw a rocket launch. Actual rocket launch, folks. Yeah. I took a few photos along the way. There's going to be a whole video about that process, but needless to say, rocket launches are freaking awesome, and if you have a chance to see one, I highly recommend it. So after that, we drove across the state to the Gulf of Mexico side and dropped the kids off at the in-laws, and then me and my wife headed to Tampa Bay. And the reason for that is I was shooting a class for KelbyOne. KelbyOne is an online photography educational company, and they're fantastic. And I'm very fortunate to have them let me record a toy photography class in the past, and this time I'm recording a class on exercise and creativity, and hopefully that'll be out sometime in the next few months. I also got to be a guest on their video podcast called The Grid, which was a dream of mine. So, Merry Christmas, me. So after The Grid and a quick stop at the largest Gundam store in America, I headed to Disney Springs. And the purpose of Disney Springs was to hang out with some photographer friends that I haven't seen in, I don't know, since well before lockdown. So I got to hang out with them. And we also just walked around Disney Springs and caught up. But the inspiration part comes here. We were walking around, and since Spider-Man No Way Home is the big thing from Disney, they had a nice big Christmas display with a Spider-Man poster. So I pulled a Spider-Man action figure out of my pocket because, well, you all carry Spider-Man figures in your pocket, right? I mean, right? And then I set it up, and my wife and Shannon helped out with getting everything set up, and this is the shot. So we hung out, and that evening we spent some more time at Disney Springs, and then the next morning I woke up early, annoyingly, looked out the window and saw a sunset, so I went to the balcony of my hotel, expecting not a lot because my balcony was looking over just random city crap. But I ran into this magical gold, and I don't know if this is going to be a shot, but it inspired me. All the magic's going to happen right in there. If it will, I'll post a video on my video feed, but if not, who knows. After that, we drove ourselves all the way back to my in-laws' place, and we spent the next few days celebrating Christmas and just hanging out by the pool, as one does at Christmas. Apparently, in a lockdown, you hang out by the pool at Christmas. Who knows? And then on December 28th, I went on a solo trip back to Tampa. This is like an hour drive away, and hung out with my good friend, Mark Rodriguez. And Mark is an absolute polymath of artistic delight. He's amazing at Photoshop. He's doing a lot of interesting sculptures. He does voiceover work.
Hello, I'm Professor Von Schmohawk, and welcome to Why You.
In animation work, he's fantastic, and I'm really fortunate that he's one of my friends. So I hung out with him, checked out his new studio, which he built during lockdown, and just had a good time. Along the way, he took me to this park, which I can't remember the name of, but it has these really interesting tree structures where the dirt has eroded from the root system, leaving all these really nice exposed roots. So I took a bunch of photos, hopefully to be backgrounds, because I figure if I can't come back here, then at least I'll have some photos I can possibly use to composite into other shots. And after that, we did one of the most exciting things this trip, which was attend a actual real-life NHL hockey game. I saw the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Montreal Canadiens play, and this is actually where COVID has helped, because the Lightning is one of the best teams in the league, and the Habs are one of the worst teams in the league, but due to all the players being out on COVID protocol, it actually kind of evened things out, and it made it a really fantastic and interesting game. Afterwards, I watched the NHL broadcast of it, and I managed to catch myself on live national TV. So that's me there, and Mark is there, and here's another shot just to show that I was actually there. And the next day, I had one of those once-in-a-lifetime experiences. We went swimming with the manatees at Crystal Springs at the Three Sisters Spring River thingy. We took a boat out over to there, and then we swam into where the manatees are and spent an hour or two just hanging out with the manatees. Manatees are fantastic and awesome and interesting. Apparently the county that is right beside where my in-laws live is the only place in Florida that allows swimming with manatees. There are a lot of rules, but basically it boils down to don't touch them and don't get in the way. But we can go out there and in this crystal clear water, just hang out with the manatees for a while and just absorb nature, which was incredibly relaxing and fantastic. The day after that, we went to this little beach called Pine Island, and the purpose of that trip was simply to let the kids play on the beach, as kids will do. But while I was sitting there, I ended up also getting inspired at this spot right here, and I actually have a whole video coming out about the things that I got up to with that spot right there, so stay tuned for that. Then one of the last things we did in Florida was go on an airboat ride to go see some gators. And this was strictly a pleasure trip. I did not expect any inspiration at all until I ran into this scene here. And if that scene does not show up in my photos at some point in time, there is something wrong with the universe. The next day or two, we just hung out with in-laws and then started driving home. So that's the end of my trip. Thank you for following along. As you can see, I got a lot of inspiration, a lot of relaxation out of it. Looks like we're going to be in lockdown for a little while longer, so I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the studio here creating, but at least my head now is filled with a lot of extra creative inspirations that I can start to use as the spark for more of my creative efforts. And a lot of those will be showing up as videos on this channel, so if you like what you've seen so far, please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!